For me, it started off as a normal Friday. I was headed to a physician's office and I went to the grocery store to pick up a few goodies. And as I was headed to the checkout counter, I was stopped in my tracks and by a sharp pain that was unbelievable. It was right through my right chest, and I just remember thinking, what's coming next? What is about to happen? And when nothing really did, even though the pain was still intense, I thought, well, I need to go sit down. So I proceeded to the checkout counter and went to my car and sat down for a moment. And I literally just thought, maybe I need a cup of coffee. And as I looked over at Starbucks, I realized there's no way I'm gonna make it to Starbucks. So I thought I need to call a coworker. And as I'm running through the scenario of what I was feeling, my coworker indicated, I think you are having a heart attack and I think you need to go to the emergency room. And I will come meet you and grab the goodies and things like that. And as she was getting ready to come up, I'm sitting in the car, and last year at the Go Redding luncheon, I remembered Elizabeth Banks' video, and it was a great parody on how women ignore the signs of a heart attack. And I was thinking, okay, I don't have the sweats at the moment. My jaw's not feeling heavy, and my chest is maybe not as restricted as I thought maybe it would be, things like that. But as I was doing the checklist, I started to have all of the signs and symptoms. All of a sudden, I started sweating profusely. I started to feel my jaw starting to tighten, and my chest became heavy, but still never to the point of feeling like the elephant was sitting on me. And so then I started texting my poor coworker and indicating, you better come quick. I'm not gonna make it. And I can only imagine the stress that I put on her and the heart attack I was giving her in panic.
She sent me a text and she said, something's not right. I don't feel right. I don't think I can go. And I said, just stay there. I'll come and get the items. You need to go to your doctor or to the emergency room. So I got in my car to go meet her, and I get another text that says, hurry now. And I just knew something was terribly wrong. Jennifer never speaks that way. Just the tone of the text, I knew something was definitely a bad situation. Even though MD Imaging is only about 2 minutes from the market, that 2-minute drive felt like forever. I couldn't get there fast enough, and I seemed to hit every light. When I got there, she was out of her car, standing by the back end, just in such pain. I could see it in her face, I could see it in her posture. Something was very, very wrong. We finally got to the ER, which felt like an eternity, and I pulled my car right up to the front, and I just ran her to the first desk, and I said, I think she's having a heart attack. And from there, everything went so fast. For once, everything went fast.
I was at work. I got a phone call from my wife telling me not to panic or worry, but she was in the emergency room at the hospital. She told me she was having some chest pains, and she had just got put into one of the rooms. So I pretty much dropped everything at work, head straight to the hospital, and honestly, the last thing going through my mind is that she was having a heart attack, or had a heart attack. And when I got up there, she was just kind of laying in the bed, hooked up to the usual machines, and shortly thereafter the nurses came in and indicated that the blood test came back indicating that she had had a heart attack that morning.
And so as the EKG was coming back negative, they were asking me all of the normal questions, such as and doing my health screening. And I didn't meet the criteria that a normal person with a heart attack would have. I was not old enough to have a heart attack. I didn't have any cholesterol issues, no blood pressure issues. I had never smoked, no drugs. And so they did do some blood work. And while we were waiting for the blood results, or they did do blood work, and then when the test results came back, it quickly indicated that I was having a heart attack. And at that moment, I remember looking over at my husband and just being in pure shock, and both of us. Here we'd spent the past few hours thinking maybe I wasn't, maybe there was something else, maybe not as serious. And I became very emotional at that point, and when the surgeons came down and said, we need to get you in for an angio, this is not normal for somebody of your age, and we need to go in and see why and what is causing this. And I just remember at that point starting to cry for the first time. I remember this wonderful nurse that I had, and I remember him looking over at me and he says, now we're at the heart of it. And it was a very emotional moment, especially when they told me there was like a 1% chance that I could die while doing having the angio. And at that point, I'd been very happy all day long. I had been joking with everybody. And then it dawned on me that I didn't get to say goodbye to my son. And so I wouldn't sign off on the angio right away. And a second surgeon came down and said, time is of the essence. You really need to be having this. And so I finally did.
A couple of doctors, cardiologists, both came in, and they also were in disbelief because she's not a drinker or a smoker, overweight, any of the usual things. We're not well into our 70s, and those were markers that people usually look for a heart attack. But when the blood results came in, they came in and said that's what it was. We really want to get you in right away for a heart catheter and really take a look to see what's going on inside there. And things moved pretty quickly from there. They came in, wheeled us right into a room. Cardiologist brought me in shortly thereafter to show me exactly what they did and where the problem was. There weren't any typical blockages in the areas where they would look for things immediately. There was a very small artery at the bottom of her heart that was causing all of the problems that morning.
I tend to be such a workaholic that while I was laying there waiting for the blood work to come back, I remember emailing, still working the entire time. And I remember telling one of the staff members, I'm in the hospital at the moment. I think I'm having a heart attack. And I remember her just screaming, "Get off the phone, what are you doing?" But I think that's one of the things that I've learned since this incident and having this heart attack is that I'm constantly thinking about what other people are going through. And all I could think about was that project, and me not replying is holding that person up. And I just kept thinking about the pressures that they were under, not even thinking about what I was going through at the moment. I remember even calling Mike Davis and my boss and saying, they're taking me up for an angiogram, I'm having a heart attack. And I remember his disbelief on the phone and just saying, "Why are you calling me?"
I thought it was impossible for her to be having a heart attack. Just no way would she have this heart attack. And I sat there and looked at my computer because she had emailed me the next day about what had happened, and was very concerned about my schedule because we were in the middle of a big fashion show, and she was a big part of it. So very caring person, and very, very stressful in her life doing things for other people. So that might have been one of the reasons that might have brought this on. She's always doing too much for other people and needs to slow down, and now we know why.
She had to stay in the hospital for a few days, so I had to go home with my son and leave my wife in the hospital, which was a very surreal moment for me. Things have been getting better, and I think she's feeling physically better. Mentally, for me, I'm still struggling with trying to say, yeah, my wife's 40 and she had a heart attack, but that's where I am today.
Our moment actually came a few days after I came home, and I was having another episode on the couch, and he'd been at work. I had sent my husband a message, and I said, "I don't want to panic you or anything. I just want you to know I think I had another little episode, and I just walked through everything with the nurse. Everything is fine. I think I'm just having a very emotional day."
She had one really bad day, and I was at work, and she called and said, "I need help today." So I came home, and we went and saw a movie. I think, well, this will be a good 2-hour distraction. We can just sit and veg out and watch a movie for 2 hours and relax.
And I just remember trying so hard to pick a movie that was going to be non-emotional. I didn't want to cry at this point. I wanted a major distraction. And so we picked Guardian of the Galaxies.
And if you've seen the movie, the opening scene is where a young son's mother dies.
And I lost it. And I was bawling. I cannot tell you how hard I was crying. And my husband was just sitting there holding me.
That really devastated her.
And I just could not stop crying. All I could think about was emotions, everything from being sad, not necessarily happy, and everything from being actually angry, like the life choices I had made at that point, my work style, everything that I was doing could have just taken me away from my son and my husband.
It really hit home, and I think for both of us, it was that moment where we said, okay, she doesn't want to leave her son behind, so.
One of the things that they talk about after you have the heart attack is, things that you can prevent, or things that you can do now maybe to alter your life. And for me, I didn't have a lot of the traditional things. I didn't have any high cholesterol. I didn't have, blockages that I was treating or anything to that effect. So for me, all I could do was take a look at my lifestyle and, change my diet a little bit, go back to exercising, and just essentially reassess how much I was doing and where my stress level was coming from. And for me, unfortunately, that meant I had to reevaluate the 2 jobs and continuing on that path and working 6 to 7 hours a day. And so when I really did look at it, I decided to close the shop and reduce some of that stress. I had to say it out loud for the first time. I started crying, and each time since that I've had to say it out loud, I've come to a better understanding that this is the right decision right now. And I'm now more at peace. But I have to say that the hardest part of making that decision was having to know, or knowing that I was going to have to let go of all these beautiful, wonderful parts, the emotional connections that I've made, all the customers that I have become friends with, the community aspect. I really hope that I can continue, because those were all things that made it a very hard decision to make.